A woman is caught during the cleanup of a murder and becomes the prime suspect. There's a problem, though.
She's blind and the murder weapon can't be found. Can Mulder and Scully find out what really happened?
This is not happening.
The deceased is Paco Ordonez, a.k.a. Little Monster. Street dealer, liked to use grade school kids as couriers. Out on bail for possession with intent. Two-time loser looking at life.
I have the same pair of pants. Who exterminated him?
That's a subject of some debate.
The killer carved a single C-shaped cut up through the right kidney. Fatal blood loss came in under 30 seconds.
I'm going to assume the killer knew what he was doing and that C wasn't one of his initials?
Your assumptions are correct. Only the killer isn't a he. Marty Glenn, 28. We found her at the scene doing a Formula 409. Under normal circumstances, my department would have her dead to rights. There's just one little snag.
She's been blind since birth.
Now, before your heart goes out to her, check out her rap sheet.
Fraud, petty theft, aggravated assault.
Believe me, she's a real piece of work.
Her juvenile records are sealed, but Detective Pennick has it on authority that two of them were drug busts. Possession and possession with intent.
So what, you think that she caught Little Monster trying to snatch the pebble from her hand?
Nothing else makes sense.
Including how a blind girl could get the drop on an ex-con and bleed him out with surgical precision.
Miss Glenn took a $60 cab ride alone straight to the motel. The cabbie instructed her to room 10, which she asked for specifically, and then told him to get lost. 30 minutes later, dead heroin dealer.
All right, so you really believe that she did this? You just don't know how.
Well, I've got a theory, if you want to hear it. I think she's got some kind of sixth sense, lets her see in the dark. Like a bat or something. I got 48 hours to convince the DA. Or wait till she kills somebody else.
How soon can I meet her?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. I am Andrew, joined tonight by Mike.
Hello.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Tonight we are reviewing Mind's Eye, episode 16 of season 5. This one was written by our friend Tim Minear, who also wrote Kitsunagari, which we reviewed a little earlier on this season. It was directed by Kim Manners. Good old Kim Manners got a lot of good episodes under the belt. Mm-hmm. And prominently in this episode is an actress named Lily Taylor, who is going to play Marty Glenn. And she gets nominated for an Emmy Award in 1998 for her performance in this episode. And I think it's definitely deserved.
It's deserved. She does a great job.
Yeah. It turns out she's a drama school classmate of Gillian Anderson. So nepotism gets you everywhere is the long and short of it.
No complaints. I mean, Lily shows up. I've seen her here and there over the last 30 years. And this was, no exception. I was used to her in movies and
well, and especially the portrayal of a blind person. That's challenging to begin with. Like, you do not want to walk into that. And I'm making assumptions. Is she sighted in real life, or do we know if she's actually blind? She
can see. Yeah, she can see.
Well, I think it comes off as legit. I have actually worked with blind folks in my time, and there are a lot of tells that come across in the performance, and I think it's quite good. But why don't we, puns for this episode will be about minds and eyes. So why don't we see our way into the episode?
Let's find our way through it.
I hope you don't mind that there will be a couple of puns in this episode. We open in Wilmington, Delaware, an apartment block at night. We have a shot of a security mirror in the corner of the apartment foyer, and we see a woman enter and slowly climb the stairs to her apartment, where she enters and turns on the television and lights a cigarette off the gas stove, one of the classier things you can do with a gas range. She sits to enjoy her cigarette and watch television. She begins to seemingly hallucinate, seeing blurred visions of men having an argument, a briefcase of drugs, a hand holding a switchblade, and a stabbing. We cut then to a police cruiser arriving at the Paradise Motel, where two cops enter and begin to clear the dark hotel room with their poor flashlights. They don't seem to do anything, in my view. They see the man from the woman's vision. He's dead on the floor with blood surrounding. The cops enter the bathroom, finding the woman from our open in the bathroom tub, ordering her to freeze and slapping the cuffs on her. The lead cop, shining his flashlight on her, figures out that she's blind. Then we go to our credits. I think it's a pretty great open. It gets us in the right mode. It's a nice puzzle.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder right away, what does she have to do with this vision? What is exactly happening here? You're getting the view from the killer, but it's like, how does she know this? And why is she cleaning it up? That's kind of the biggest question, I think.
Definitely no leads in just yet. We then move to Scully giving a slide projector briefing to Mulder back at the office. The dead man is Paco Ordonez, who's also known as Little Monster. He's a drug dealer and all-around bad guy. And we see our old friend Claude Peterson. Detective.
I was wondering. I was like, it's obvious who this man is, but I was going to ask.
His name is Detective Pennock now. He's gone into witness protection after the events of Ghost in the Machine and emerged the other side as a detective in Delaware. And his disguise is so convincing that Mulder does not recognize him. I guess he didn't last long in the Department of Defense.
Didn't get a good look in Ghost in the Machine.
That's right. It's like that old line in Eve. She doesn't let the lights stay on to get a good look at her. So, yes, he is the detective on the scene, and he is also filling the blanks on this murder. He's got a problem.
It's interesting to have another law enforcement officer come in and be like, I realize this stuff doesn't fully connect the dots, but for some reason I believe she has this ability that...
Yeah. What's missing in my mind is the connection between Detective Pennock and either Scully or Mulder. Like, do they go back? Have they done cases together? It's just taken as given that if it's a weird case, you bring it to these two agents in the X-Files and maybe they can give you a hand. But we don't know anything about their relationship. And maybe that's to prevent the situation which we've seen in many episodes where it's like, Pennock, it's been forever. Dude, how are you? Oh, it's so awesome to see you again. It's sandwiches and coffee, and then Pennock gets it in Act 3, But
right.
That doesn't happen here anyway. So, anyway, that's my only issue with the scene. Otherwise, I think it's a pretty good setup. I think it's good fodder to bring our agents on the scene.
I think it's good.
Yeah. They're going to go visit Marty in her cell.
Oh. It's you.
See what I mean?
It's not magic. It's your crappy cologne. Who's that with you?
Special Agent Mulder.
And the lady?
Special Agent Scully. We'd like to ask you some questions, Marty.
You must be having trouble with your case, Detective. So, I'm all ears.
I'm curious why you've refused your right to an attorney.
Unless you're gonna charge me, I don't plan on needing one.
Well, you could be charged right now. But the fact that you've given no compelling reason why you're in that motel room. What were you doing there, Marty?
Putting mints on the pillows.
The cabbie has given a statement that you asked specifically for room 10, which would put you at the murder scene right about the time of death.
Is that a crime?
If you were involved in any way.
You mean like an eyewitness?
Did you intend to buy drugs from Paco Ordonez? Did you kill him?
Hey, maybe it was just his time to go. I mean, other than the stab wound, did you check his cholesterol level or anything?
How did you know there was just one stab wound?
Did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
I guessed. You know what the problem is? You've got no murder weapon. And I bet that's driving Stinky back there crazy. Isn't it, Stinky? Why is he hiding? It's not like I can see him. You know what I did with it, Detective? I fed it to my seeing eye dog.
I'm curious, Marty.
Yeah, about what?
If you didn't kill him, why you were at the crime scene cleaning up and doing such a piss-poor job of it? Why don't we just stop playing games here, okay? I mean, you probably don't know a feather duster from a duck's ass, do you? I mean, it's ridiculous. You're a blind woman, for God's sake. So why don't you just tell us who did kill Paco Ordonez, and Agent Scully and I can go arrest him. And you can go home and work on your angry young blind girl comedy routine. Or we can just stay here and entertain each other for the next 48 hours.
Go to hell.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, it's rude. He's playing her game of she's better than us, so I'm gonna just sink right down to her level and just be as rude as I can be to kind of shake her a little bit. He wants her to come out more honestly than she's being, and he offends her, and she throws water in his face for his troubles.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to get a rise out of her because he recognized immediately that she basically needs to be in charge. You know, she needs, her pride is very strong, and she needs to be in command of her situation, whatever that situation is. And she's not going to cooperate. Outside, the three compare notes. Detective Panic doesn't buy her act. Mulder thinks that she's innocent, and he's convinced that she's honed her other senses to compensate and wanting to people to think that she's not weak for being blind. And I think that that's a commonly held belief, right? When you lose one sense, your other senses will heighten to sort of make up the difference. My dad actually has a cat that lost a leg, one of its front legs, and now you would never know that it was in any way impaired because it can walk just fine with three legs. And jump that's and awesome. Get into places you would not imagine that cat get. So yes, that is physical evidence of what I am saying. So take that. So we have them comparing notes, and Scully is going to go back to the crime scene. She's not convinced that maybe they found everything that they could find there. And Mulder alludes that he's going to try something else, which we find in the next scene is a polygraph. He is going to have Marty tested to see if she is in fact telling the truth, which I think is a pretty good move.
Given how she's acting, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good way to maybe break through her exterior a little bit.
Well, and if anything, validate what she's saying, like throw some questions at her and see if what she's saying is true. And I think that she goes for it because it's another game for her. It's another thing that she can try and beat. And she knows she can because she knows that she's going to tell the truth. Except for the one question, which is accidental, when the questioner says if she's ever seen Paco, and he says, well, let me revise that. Have you ever interacted with him? But Mulder clocks when he says, have you ever seen him, that the machine goes a bit wiggy. That, in fact, maybe she has seen him, but how can that be? She's blind. So we have this bit where he writes the question down, and then she says, well, why don't you just ask me? So he does. Have you ever seen Paco before? And then she says, well, I couldn't have because I'm blind. And he asks again, and I think she goes on and says, no, anyway. She lies all over the place at this point. It's clear that he's got her on that. So that's our way into the plot. It's a pretty nice little scene. So we come back to Scully and Pennock searching the crime scene. And Mulder calls Scully and relates the results of the polygraph. And Scully reminds Mulder and us as the audience that polygraphs are not admissible in court, which I think is a good thing, given the kinds of things we've seen polygraphs do in this show.
Yeah. Not entirely reliable.
No, and it's because people, I think they flinch at all sorts of things, right? Like whenever... If you get a reaction, it's not necessarily a lying reaction. It's just a emotional reaction to this question.
I mean, you have to think. I mean, just the idea, hey, let's assume, being questioned for a crime that was committed. I would already be nervous. Like, what the fuck's happening? Even if I'm 100% innocent, that thing's going to be flying off the scale.
If I don't answer these questions correctly, I'm going to incriminate myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Totally reasonable. That doesn't stop him from using them, though.
No.
Have you ever had a polygraph? Has it ever done anything like that? I mean,
I'm curious about it. I would like to try it, but not under these circumstances.
Well, we have Scully and Pennock now searching the crime scene. And we then have Scully finding a very old apartment convenience, a slot in the wall of the bathroom marked shaving blades only. And she calls over Panic and opens it to find a blood-stained glove. Now, I had an apartment where we had one of these shaving blade slots. And I would like to ask, you've ever had anything like this? Ever had an apartment? Ever had an encounter with one of these?
I have not.
No.
I've known about them. I have not actually myself had one.
Do you imagine there is a complicated valve and chute system where the blades are sent into a disposal site, a safe disposal site of some kind?
Your tone is telling me otherwise.
No, they are deposited directly into the lath and plaster of the wall to pile up over time in what can only be described as a torturer's dream site of rusty biohazard razor blades.
That sounds like Bill the Carpenter just came up with something one day.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, it caught on for a little bit.
I cannot imagine sticking my hand into that area to pull out anything. Like
that would be awful. You break through the wall to renovate the apartment and just razor blades tumble out.
I hope your
other people's blood.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it just made me shiver a little bit when I saw that.
Yeah. No, thank you.
But we do have a bloodstained glove, so clearly more evidence. Back in her cell, Marty's having another vision. This time we see a woman at a bar drinking shots. Agitated, Marty calls out for her freaking phone call. She's not going to call a lawyer, though. She's calling the bar, asking for the guy.
Interesting twist.
Yeah, she's going to ask for the guy hitting on the redhead. And the bartender clocks him and brings the phone over. The redhead leaves angrily, and an older, scruffy man answers the phone. Marty tells him to leave her alone and that she's watching him. She hangs up ominously, leaving the guy shocked. I liked this twist.
It was very unexpected, but it's in keeping, obviously, with the intro where she's trying to intervene in something, and it's cool. You know, you expected her to call for help, but no, she's calling the killer at the bar right now.
Yeah, it's quite brilliant, actually. And I mean, so far, this episode has me. It's really well done. And I like this gimmick that they've got of her being able to see through the killer's eyes. And they're not done with the cool things they're going to do with that. So, I'm impressed with it so far. There will be a point, obviously, where that goodwill runs out because it's me. But for right now, I'm loving it a lot. So after the commercial,
stay tuned, audience.
Stay tuned. Yes, you'll know when this happens.
for Andrew's disenchantment with the episode.
But what if? So Marty is presented with the bloody glove in an evidence bag where she makes the obligatory mid-90s O.J. Simpson joke. Mm-hmm. Scully relates that Marty's prints are all over the gloves, and they fit her hand. Marty nags that they still don't have a murder weapon and that they are running out of time. So the glove, she came there with the gloves, we're meant to assume, or these were gloves that were left there? I don't remember the opening sequence, but I don't remember seeing our killer wearing gloves.
That is a good question. I'm not sure whose gloves they are. Because she had yellow gloves on when they were...
Yeah, she seemed to be doing some
cleaning.
household work. I'm going to assume, well, hold on. The answer to the question is revealed later, actually, because they find blood samples on the gloves that are not hers. So
okay.
I'm going to assume
they're probably the killers.
They're the killers, yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, okay. You had me going there for a second. I'm like, why would she have bloody gloves? I know she didn't do it, but I mean, we're good.
Well, okay. I didn't see the what ifs coming, but here they come. How does she...
Here they come.
Oh, no. How does she know how to hide the glove in this extremely hard to find place? So she definitely touched them at some point.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a break and watch the episode better. Please join us in a few minutes. No, I don't know. Okay. She obviously saw him discard the gloves and he did not hide them. Or something. The whole point of this, as we'll find out at the end, is to keep something from happening.
Mm-hmm.
So she's getting rid of this evidence. That's how her prints got on there, because he was too careless to dispose of it correctly, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think the through line that we eventually find is that she is basically trying to keep both him and her out of jail so that she can find a scenario where she can kill him, because she doesn't want to have this vision.
She doesn't know who he is. So the point is, because she can see through his eyes, she doesn't want him to go to jail. Spoilers, people, for the end of the episode.
Yeah,
We are there.
Just in case, yeah.
She's trying to keep him out of prison so she never has to see the jail. Be in jail, because she lives through his eyes at times. So if he's living there, that's why she's cleaning up all this stuff.
Yeah, but then why kill him at the end? Why not call him up and say...
Because she feels he deserves to die for what he did to her mother.
Listen, we'll dive back into this later on when that stuff comes up. But for now, it's a little bit tenuous here why she actually arranges to hide and how. How does she know this impossibly great hiding place is there? I mean, she can see through his eyes, but anyway, she's just that good is what we're going to say. Scully and Mulder regroup and talk about Marty. She hasn't applied for any disability benefits. And Mulder assumes, again, it's the pride, but it doesn't fit the circumstances of the crime. The killer takes off with the murder weapon, but leaves the glove behind for Marty to hide and then try to clean the murder scene. Scully goes on to posit that maybe Marty isn't actually blind. Maybe she's suffering from a condition called conversion disorder, which she describes as a certain level of visual acuity, but they're not aware that they're actually seeing. That sounds tenuous at best to me.
It sounds like she's reaching.
I'll bet you it's an actual thing.
Oh, I believe that. But I mean,
we're 5 seasons in and they've been called out on stuff up to now. And I'm sure they recognize that they got to be legit. But interesting theory, I guess.
It's typical Scully trying to science her way through it, which is fair. But at the same time, like you're saying, it's likely a real disorder. But how believable is it that she would be suffering this and accomplishing all the stuff she's accomplishing through something that she can't tell if is actually real, Yeah. I would imagine it's a much smaller scale when that happens for blind people. I don't know, but it sounds reversed. Like a person experiences blindness occasionally.
She's experiencing something for no good reason is kind of where it comes from. But hey, it's Scully. You got to trust that it's I don't know where that sentence goes, really. It's got to trust that what she says is legit because she's a doctor.
It gets us to the next scene.
It
works in the moment,
Yep. We have a little cut of the old scruffy man on the phone with another bad man looking to sell his stolen stash. They make some noises like they're going to do a deal. It sounds very legit. And then he stashes his briefcase in a bus station locker. That will become significant later. So we go back to Marty's eye test. She's going to have her vision tested. And we have this great moment at the beginning where they start the machine and she goes, it's a miracle. And of course, she can't actually see.
And that was interesting because I did read that having her be someone who's not initially sympathetic was a choice, a conscious choice to not fall into that trope of like a hero with a disability who everyone just likes immediately. And I think it works for this episode where you end up really liking her by the end of the episode, but she comes off initially as someone who's just against the grain and very hard to like, I guess, as Mulder puts it.
She's the real protagonist in this episode. I mean, I think we get more screen time of her than we actually get, or kind of on par with Mulder and Scully. And I think it works exactly as you say, because you learn to like her. You learn to accept that she's got reasons for doing what she's doing. And I think by and large you agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
We then see the ophthalmologist saying he's not getting anything. There's no activity in the visual cortex, which is fancy talk for the plot to confirm for us that she is indeed blind. But Mulder notes that her pupils are dilating. She is seeing something.
I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's totally superficial.
Yeah. And so, I mean, your eyes, the black part of your eyes, I guess that's the pupil. When it goes small, it's because it's your body trying to restrict the amount of light coming into your eyes. So that's like when you go outside and there's a lot of sunlight, and you're suddenly they
My
dilate very
rods
small.
and cones.
My rods, my cone. So she is definitely seeing something. And before I go on to explain this next scene, I want to say that the computer interface stuff is kind of cool. Interesting and nicely technical. And it gives us what looks like a prescription for her glasses, which it's all very nice. But I mean, I'm no optometrist, but I think the only way you can get those numbers is if you're working with something like a machine and you say whether or not it's in focus. I don't think it can actually just push a button and tell you what your prescription would be.
Likely not.
And Mike, you're not an eyeglasses wearer, I think.
No, not yet.
You bastard.
I'm anticipating it
20/20
sometime.
vision. Well, when you go,
Vision's amazing right now.
you can see everything so clearly and so far away. When you go, there will be a machine a giant honking machine that you put your schnoz through, and you'll look through your schnoz is your nose, by the way.
Oh,
That machine. It's a really interesting test. And then you'll look through, and it'll be like 1,000 different pairs of glasses, basically. And you'll be asked to tell whether you can read this line or is this clear.
Oh, yeah. I did that all throughout grade school and middle school. They would occasionally have these tests in gym, and it would test on the desk, right? Did you have this, Andrew, at all?
I never had that.
Okay. It was like during gym, and it would be for 1 day per semester or whatever.
Is that right after they talked about sex ed?
Oh, yeah.
They showed the film and the gym teacher left the room.
It would just be this machine on the desk, and you'd stick your schnoz in there.
Yes.
Yeah, I passed with flying colors every time. I'm just kidding. Mike's being
Well, if there was a machine that could automatically figure out your prescription for you, we wouldn't need any of those kind of tests. So all that to say that what we see on that computer screen, total bullshit.
Given the fact that I'm pretty sure I did this when this episode aired, I don't think this machine exists.
It makes it look good, but yeah, it's just have to point that out as a glasses wearer. So Marty is indeed having another vision, this time of our killer going back to his favorite bar, the Blarney Stone. And guess what, people? This is an actual place.
Mm-hmm.
You
kiss it upside down, right? You hang over the edge and you kiss the rock or something?
No. Yes, in Ireland, the Blarney Stone is a thing, but I'm going to tell you that the actual Blarney Stone bar exists.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
Mike here with useless knowledge.
Not some cheap bar in Vancouver. Yeah, well, 216 Carroll Street in Vancouver. If you're ever interested, it is still there. Now, that said, I don't know whether the interior is still. It was where they shot. It may just be the exterior.
The exterior is exactly the same. Is that what it is?
You can look it up on Google Street View.
Oh, nice.
Right now. Yeah, it's
Nice.
kind of cool. Probably some of the only places in the X-Files where that's the case, actually, because they've obviously filmed all over the place in BC.
I've always wanted to, and completely off topic, but I've wanted to go on like an X-Files BC Canada trip where you just hit all the hot spots where they filmed.
You want to go to that bridge, man. That bridge rocks. Well, you can come up here anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Andrew, the gatekeeper to Canada.
I have extended you an official X-Files tour visa. It'll be great.
I'll take the family and we can all go.
So Mulder asks Marty what she's seeing. But before she can answer, Pennock arrives at the DA, and they go out and talk about whether they should charge Marty, which is pretty much an inexcusable plot diversion because, like, he knows something is happening. You can see it happening. Why do we have to leave now? And the plot, this is not the first time the plot will do this. We will have these little deus ex machina, we must change where the plot goes now moments.
I will say this is Peter Kalamis, and he also plays a husband in Small Potatoes, and can't remember his character, but also in Lazarus.
Lazarus.
I can't remember. Like right now, I wrote it down, but I'm like, where did
You better be right. Because, I mean, we just watched Lazarus. And
we did, and I'm pretty positive he's in Lazarus.
Probably like some EMT dude. And,
not like a high profile character, but yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, they go on about whether or not they should charge Marty, which is still controversial because she's blind and they don't have a murder weapon. So they've learned some things. Mulder relates what he's learned. And at the end of that, the DA decides immediately to cut her loose because they really, and he's absolutely right. They've got no murder weapon. How would you imagine prosecuting this? It would be a hell of a court case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously Pennock is not delighted by this, but I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's the right call.
Getting up in front of a jury and trying to convince them that a blind woman did this. Not possible.
Yeah. So they cut her loose, and we have a nice scene where Marty gets her stuff back, and she's going through her wallet and says, "These still better be 20s."
It almost makes me wonder, because they give us that brief rundown of what she's had done in her past and what she's been arrested for. If like these two people have a rapport with each other, the guy giving her stuff back, that's kind of playful, but kind of hostile at the same time. Maybe, they know each other from her past arrests.
I kind of wish that they had played that up and had them on, first name basis with each other. They could have, because he's got lines, and it would have given her something to work with. But yeah,
I mean, it's a good scene either way, but that's just kind of where my mind went with it.
Well, his lovely Balmo are, well, no, we changed them for 50s because you're so nice. So she walks away defiantly. She whips out her cane and obviously, is not acting as I guess the actor is acting, but Marty is not acting it. This is very meta right now. She leaves the police station. Scully goes on to say that they found 2 different blood samples on the glove. One type matching Marty's, except that she showed no cuts or wounds when she was arrested. There's a question mark there, so Scully is going to have the lab in Washington do a further review on the blood samples. And that's where she's going to go. Meanwhile, Marty outside is going to have another vision, this time of our killer confronting the redhead from the bar. He's convinced she was wearing a wire and wants to know who's watching him. He gets rough with her in the process, and Marty, seeing there's going to be some impending violence, screams out for someone to tell her where Spring Street is. She marches off directly into traffic. That's a scary scene if you've had any close encounters with cars, because, man, that dump truck just comes.
She does not care. She does not give a shit. Hoping everyone is Johnny on the spot with their brakes.
Yeah, and they are, man. To her luck. Well, she eventually is guided by a man to Spring Street, and Marty dismisses him. Thanks, I got it good. Thanks, go. And charges into the alley, finding the scene of the crime, but initially she doesn't find a body until she sees, or I guess feels, a dumpster and opens it to reveal the corpse of our redhead with not completely unconvincing blood.
It's better than Chinga.
Barely.
I'm going to keep using that. It's hard to unsee those things in episodes and movies, and I just watched one today and I was like, why is this person breathing? But yeah, you can see her stomach area moving up and down, even though it's her back.
I'm going to have to look at that right now. Do we? Oh, yeah.
You can see the small of her back just a little bit.
Well, she never gets hired again, does she?
Actually, now that we're talking about it, it's All Souls. That's what I was watching again today. When Scully's in the autopsy. Yeah. I was like, dude, every time they show her, what are you doing? Just stop moving.
She's on a steel slab naked. I can imagine that's pretty hard to stay still through.
Yeah, but all they really need is 1-2 second shot of it and just keep using it.
True.
So it's a failure with the editor too.
Listen, that episode can't be so bad you're critiquing it in this episode. Let's compartmentalize.
Well, you know what? It just found a way.
We could just go back and critique Space if we wanted to then. We have her going back to the dude she just, basically flipped off, and she's going to confess to the killings. I did it, she says. Mm-hmm. Which is a nice twist, that she's going to cop to the murders. And I guess, do you think she's doing it to, I don't know why she's doing it. Do we have an idea of why she's doing it? Because I'm at a loss what this stratagem is.
She's finding herself a little defeated in her efforts to make this not happen to the killer. Obviously, she's, as I stated earlier, I believe she's trying to keep him out of prison so she doesn't have to see prison, because that's unfortunately what she's plagued with forever. And I think at this point she's just done with it. It's not necessarily a good plot point. I'm not really defending it so much as I am just trying to explain it.
Well, and thank you for trying. Either that or her end game is, okay, he's done another murder. He's gotten sloppy. They're going to investigate it. They're going to figure out it's somebody else that'll lead them to them, and he'll get arrested and put away because he's no master criminal. So I'm going to take the rap for this, but they're going to try and prosecute me, and it's not going to work because, again, I'm blind, and how could I have done it? So last ditch effort to try and absorb the rap. I could go with that, but it's a plot twist which works for before the commercial, but if you think about it too hard, it kind of falls apart.
I'll go with that. That's very astute.
So after the commercial, Mulder goes back to an interview with Marty, who says he's read Marty's confession.
I'll sign it.
You'll make him a very happy man.
Can't have everything.
As for me, I'm a little puzzled by this sudden change of heart.
Please. Too much charity of heart and I want to puke.
Why kill them? Paco Ordonez, Susan Forrester? Did you even know that was her name? Susan Forrester, she was 30 years old, native of Wilmington. She waitressed part-time. She lived alone with her 2 cats.
Shut up. Why are you doing this? I've given you people everything you want.
I like you, Marty. I admire you. And I don't want to see you confess to crimes you didn't commit.
You just feel sorry for me.
No, I don't. Not the way you think I do.
Read the confession. I got it all perfect. Every detail. How could I do that if I'm innocent?
I believe you witnessed both murders. You saw them somehow, but you were way across town when they happened. You were a $60 cab ride away.
You're crazy.
I think you tried to stop them. You tried to, but you didn't get there in time.
I don't have to talk to you anymore.
Marty, whoever did this, they're gonna kill again. And you can help stop that.
So yes, he could either be defeated at this point and just simply shutting down, or this is all part of a larger gambit to eventually escape prosecution.
I think I'm going to go with yours. Mine sounds pretty dumb now that I think about it. I think she is defeated in the sense that her plan initially is not working. But you are, I think, spot on where she would rather go to jail so she never has to actually see the jail.
She'll
see him being free
on the outside of the world. I mean, in addition to murdering people, he has gone to the ocean, so there's that.
Yeah.
Well, we cut to our killer, who is talking to his drugs contact, and now the deal is off, as the other guy has cold feet. Turns out someone has been calling around to warn them off dealing with this bad man. Has Marty been making more phone calls? I mean, this is who we're talking about, right? Because the killer looks pretty scowly, and he says, no, this person doesn't know nothing. And then the guy on the phone says, well, how did they get my number? Which is great because obviously I think it is Marty who has been able to see him punching in the number and then use that to make the calls. So maybe she used her powers of personality to finagle some more phone calls out of the cops. Anyway, it's a nice plot point. Again, it alludes to her superpower of being able to see through his eyes. And he's super not impressed as to what this means. Right. Things are not working out. So Pennock comes in and tells him that Marty has signed the confession. And this time she's given them a motive, drugs, and their location. So pretty damning evidence because we now go to the bus station. We see the locker being opened by, was it Bill the carpenter? Not sure who this guy is.
No, he's Bill the train station attendant right now.
The bus locker attendant.
After that razor blade faux pas, he got fired. No one would hire him.
Yep. Well, now he is opening lockers for people. And inside we see the briefcase and its illicit contents. And we have this great moment of Pennock calling Mulder skeptical, which I think is quite good. Anyway, the case is basically open and shut, just like the briefcase. And we got Mulder's cell phone ringing. Scully's calling in with the blood test results. And to nobody's great surprise, neither sample is Marty's. But Pennock is not likely to be convinced at this point. He's got all the evidence he needs. The team leaves the station, and then we can see our killer looking on angrily as his score is removed. Looks like the stakes are getting higher for this guy.
Getting higher.
Mm-hmm. So back in the cells, Mulder visits Marty. He knows that she's protecting someone. She knows who it is. He knows who it is. It's the man who killed Marty's mother. And now it's where he's kind of using a not superpower, but his investigator power. He just tells her what he's learned, that in 1970, Marty's mother died from a single stab wound in the kidney, similar to how Paco and Susan, the redhead, have been killed. Marty's mother was pregnant at the time, and Marty was born while her mother died on the operating table. This is where he uses his superpower, because he then establishes that Marty has a connection to her mother's killer based on this exchange, which I think is a pretty damn cheap connection, but, you know, at this point, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I accept it in this episode for the sake of the X-Files, and I won't go too far into it right now, but it's okay. She was there when it happened, so
yeah.
All right.
I think this could have been a more powerful moment if, in fact, Gotts, who is the guy's name, is Charles Wesley Gotts, if he didn't kill the mother, if she just literally died on the operating table and, you know, his life falls apart and he's ended up, you know, being convicted on something else and materializes later on after the parole. But essentially, if it wasn't this weird, he kills them all the same way with a switchblade C cut to the kidney, I mean, that felt like really, it doesn't need to be that way. Why make it this really specific, oh, he kills them all the same way? It's like, yeah, seems to stab him pretty hard. That's how he does it. But okay, whatever.
Because if it was just a stab wound, if it was just a normal in and out stab wound, they would never be able to pin it to him.
I suppose.
Never, ever.
No one else could stab this way.
No.
All right. Well, the superpower use is that there is this psychic connection based on the fact that your mother was killed and you were born when this happened, and somehow he was there. But I mean, he's her father, so like they already have a genetic connection. Can you not just go with that? But you got to make it really high stakes, I suppose. But anyway, that's where this turned from a great episode to a good episode for me, was this unnecessary complication and this cheap attempt to elicit sympathy for us, I guess. But it kind of works on Marty. Actually, I don't think it even does here, because this doesn't really resolve at this point, because Pennock arrives again in time to interrupt the scene. Oh, we got to transfer somewhere else, you know, up you go. And it's like, if you just gave me another couple of minutes with her at Pennock, I would have something here. But to what is she saying? I'm sorry that I won't help you, that I have been obstinate up to this point. Yeah. Yeah,
I think she can't bring herself to do this. Probably because she's A, you know, this is going to work for her, and B, she's a little afraid that she's actually connecting with someone. Someone believes in her and understands what's happening and helps her understand. And it's probably the first time she's had a good relationship, even though it's been antagonistic.
And this is Mulder's real superpower, is that he can get underneath people's skin in a way. And, you know, they will say I'm not going to tell you what this weird thing is because you won't believe me. But in fact, of course, he will believe, and that's how they can make that connection. So yeah, they are starting to bond here. So I guess I buy the I'm sorry business, but I don't know. I just don't like that the scene is arbitrarily cut short for the sake of moving our plot on. It's like, why doesn't Mulder just say, look, we're getting somewhere. Give me 5 more minutes. But we do lead into a cool scene, which probably redeems it a bit in my mind. She's having another vision as she's being transferred. And of this vision, it is of herself walking. And of course, she's seeing herself through the killer's eyes as she's being put into the prison transfer van, which is so delightfully meta, like thinking of itself, that it got me back again. I liked it a lot. This idea that
this is the first time she's seeing herself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mirror won't work for her. So that is pretty cool.
You can see it on her face. She is baffled by what's happening. She's completely taken aback by it and horrified at the same time. Like she realizes what's happening.
Yeah. He's here. He's looking at me, and I'm thus looking at myself. I mean, not only is it jarring because it's so existential, but as you say, it's now this knowledge that, wait, the killer is right there. And nobody would know it because it's this information that only I have.
My only problem with this scene, completely stupid. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. When she sees him seeing her, it's straight on. But when they show him, he's clearly looking down from like an elevated position. Yeah. Continuity.
Well,
Whatever.
this episode is terrible.
Next.
So we get commercial break. We're back after with Mulder visiting Marty at the prison. She's clearly in a higher level of security. She's got prison smocks. They're talking between, there's glass between them when they're talking.
Hi, Marty.
What's going on?
Detective Pennock is with the warden right now, arranging for your release.
What?
Charges against you are being dropped. You're no longer a suspect in this case.
How can they do that? I confessed.
Well, a confession is worthless if it's a lie, and yours was a lie.
What have you been telling them?
Just that you're innocent, which is something they would have found out on their own anyway. The locker you sent us to, it had prints on it, but they weren't yours.
I was careful.
Yeah, well, somebody else wasn't so careful. Charles Wesley Gotts, ex-con, convicted in 1970 of aggravated assault. He was paroled 3 weeks ago, and he's been missing ever since.
Never heard of him.
I happen to believe that, Marty. The PCR test confirmed that it was his blood on the glove. The test confirmed something else, Marty. He's your father. That was the connection.
Okay, we're all set. That is, if everything's taken care of on this end.
What's he talking about?
Detective Pennock has agreed to not pursue aiding and abetting charges if you agree to help us. If you agree to help us find him. We need your help, Marty. You can end it now.
I can end this.
I'm sure that's what you've always wanted.
I never wanted to spend my life in a place like this. I had no choice. If I help you, will you protect me until he's caught?
I will personally guarantee your safety.
So, at this point, is she formulating a new plan? Do we see that at all in her performance?
No.
Yeah.
My first time watching it, I think I was like, okay, things are moving and she's cooperating.
Yes, exactly.
And then, things happen. I did not take it that way the first time I saw it. I was surprised a little bit.
I guess part of me thought that, we're gonna have a resolution which falls in line with the way they want things to go. I don't know if that will happen. There will be a reversal here somewhere. I did not see how it was going to reverse, though, so credit to the episode for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to our end game happens now. Well, we cut to a stakeout at the Blarney Stone. In real life, 216 Carroll Street, downtown Vancouver. Visit anytime. They'd love to have your business.
Hey, we are not getting paid, sir.
They should be our first sponsor. That's right.
I'm making a phone call tomorrow. We accidentally plugged your establishment, so...
I hope you're up to it, yeah. Mulder and Scully bring us up to speed, detailing how the stakeout has been set up. Scully wonders why Marty wants to cooperate now, seeing as she was so obstinate before. And Mulder thinks about it, and he pulls his infamous Mulder 180 move. Having probably gone to great lengths to engineer this whole stakeout, he then decides that he's not going to be here, which is classic Mulder, is it not? Like, he gets everyone energized and motivated to do this thing, and then at the last minute, wait a second, we're wrong.
I like it, though, because it feels a little more earned in this episode, where we can watch him, the wheels are turning, and it's Scully who's, like, initiating this change, and he's like, as he's talking, he starts fading off, and like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good thing we left her with a seasoned police officer. I guess she'll be fine. Well, we cut back to Marty's apartment, and she's busy packing for her trip to the safe house, and an impatient Pennock is waiting as Marty seemingly overpacks, although to my mind, it seems to be a perfectly reasonable amount of clothing and stuff to bring. He goes on to this thing of like, you don't have to pack your whole apartment. You're only going to be there for like, overnight or something. I forget what he says, but kind of makes a deal of it that I think is not earned. But anyway, he does.
He strikes me as one of those cops who's like begrudgingly like, all right, I know you're innocent, whatever. I was trying to railroad you before, but
it's all good now that you're helping.
I still don't want to be your friend because, reasons.
Because reasons. If I were to recut this episode, I would take some of his footage from Ghost in the Machine and somehow find a way to sandwich it in here. I think it would be really good. I'm going to figure this out if it kills me.
Yeah.
So she then says that it doesn't matter. Gotts has tracked me down. He's here. He's in the lobby. He's reading the apartment names. And an incredulous Pennock turns and is like, what? What are you talking about? And we've had a scene or two of her like, looking at a pot that's on the stove and sort of touching it in a way that suggests she's going to do something with it. And when he turns away, she does something with it. She picks it up and slaps him on the head with it. And he falls like a sack of potatoes, which I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, because I would look at that and go, how would you know when it is extremely proficient that she hits him and knocks him out?
Mm-hmm. It's too convenient, not only that she was able to knock him out, but that by saying he's reading the names on the mailboxes, he would just instinctively look towards the door.
Yeah. I mean, it is a little bit of a plot gimme just so that we can get him out of the picture, which is what we need. But they could have found another way maybe to incapacitate him that wasn't quite so tenuous. That's the word of the year. She takes his gun and leaves the apartment. And indeed, we see that Gotts has found Marty's name on the mailboxes, and we are treated to the same shot from our open. That security mirror reflected his movement up the stairs. Mulder gets no answer from Pennock on his cell phone as he decides his theory is right, and they head to their car to go over to Marty's place. Mulder posits that if Gotts goes back to prison, then so does she, metaphorically, I guess. So this is the whole through line, right? That we've identified her reason for wanting to do any of this is to keep Gotts out of jail so that he won't be, confined, that her freedom will be through him, which I guess works.
It brings up a question, which I'll bring up in a few minutes here.
Okay, we'll save that for later. At Marty's place, we're treated to a short but cool game of cat and mouse as Gotts enters through the apartment and he searches for Marty. It's a sequence where Marty sees through Gotts' eyes as he stalks from room to room, his switchblade ominously drawn. He has seen the detective's body on the floor and, drew his blade, and that little schnick noise is obviously the cue that something bad is going to happen. He finds Marty in the kitchen, and she stands up, points Pennock's gun at him, saying, "I hate the way you see me," and shoots him in the face, which is the end of our villain. We have a nice POV shot of her with the gun. Boom, and he's down. Mulder and Scully arrive at Marty's apartment to see Gott's body with a bullet hole between his eyes, and Pennick arresting Marty. And he says, "Oh, she did this one, trust me." It's a nice little turn. I argue at this point, before we go into the epilogue, I would argue that there is a case to be made for self-defense here.
He did have a knife drawn.
Yeah.
And he came in to kill, which they could easily piece together.
Yeah. And if she was craftier, she could have said it was Guts that nailed you from behind, not me. But I guess that's not going to stick. I mean, she could have killed Pennick with the switchblade.
Yeah. I think the one thing she would likely go to jail for is assault of a police officer.
Exactly.
But I don't think, and it's alluded to, she's going to be just fine. I don't think she would be in jail for long or prison. Yeah.
I mean, she ultimately solves a double murder. So, yeah. And
after working to deceive the police.
After obstructing justice for so long. Well, we have our epilogue now. We have Mulder visiting Marty in her prison cell, where they will share the epilogue. Marty still won't let Mulder intervene in her defense, and he fills in the remaining blanks for the plot. We have a touching moment where Marty tells us how she hadn't seen the motion before, and now when she closes her eyes, or opens them actually, it's all she sees. And the episode ends on this weird moment where the prison guards turn out the lights, and Mulder's still in the prison.
He's FBI, all right?
He's cool.
He has credentials.
He's got late night privileges. I mean, I guess it's a metaphor for the blindness that Marty is now fully enduring, but...
Look at you, Andrew.
I know that Tim Minear.
Metaphors.
Yeah. So there you go. That is our episode as we cut to our end credits. Shall we round into our final thoughts? Shall we see what we think about this episode?
I don't mind.
I see what you're doing with that. Yeah. Mike, what did you think of this episode? What did you think of Mike's eye?
I think it's very good. The use of Lily was spot on. She was the perfect person for this, and she did such a good job. Like we've been saying, I have very few questions and gripes with this episode. I think we got a different take where we were just as involved with the special guest as we were with Mulder and Scully. It almost felt very even, if not more, on her. We got more of her than them. And I think it happens in the X-Files, but this one felt a little bit more like they were actually each accomplishing something and working together towards this goal. And it's just a good episode, a very well put together episode. My biggest question would be, as I mentioned earlier, is the motivations of Marty, and is it really better to keep this guy out of prison despite what he might do, and is seeing prison bars worse than watching him kill people? Yeah. It's hard to make that justification for me. I'm not Marty, but I'm pretty sure, as annoying as it would be, I would rather see prison bars.
And listen, lots of bad people die in prison, so there's that. To your point, and I agree with you completely, it's been the plot thread that I think both you and I have been hacking at multiple times tonight. But why not just go for the obvious? She knows he's her father, because then we have a direct link to, well, I can't just let him go to prison. I will take the rap for him because he's my father and I don't want him to go to jail. He's flawed, but, either I'm damaged and I believe he's okay, or, he's got a hold on me, or whatever the reason, just choose that reason as opposed to, I don't know. It's not real. We don't ever have a moment of her saying, this is why I can't do it. It doesn't ever really come out, which is why we have to interpret it. But anyway, I agree with you there. I'm going to let you continue on with any other final thoughts you have.
I mean, it's pretty much, all in all, I think it's a great episode, despite the small things that we've poked holes in or questioned. I think it's definitely an episode worth seeing.
Yep. Yeah, a credit to Tim Minear. He also wrote Kitsunagari, which I would also say was a solid, good, maybe not great, especially
bloated,
it lives in and it lives in the shadow of Pusher And I recall liking it a lot and wishing that it had done different things. But so I guess it's exactly the same case here. These are the only episodes that Tim Minear will write, which is kind of a shame because I think he did have some really good stuff. I liked much of it, except for the unnecessary linkage between Marty and Guts in this moment of violence. I mean, why could she just always have had the ability? I sort of laid it out then. I'm just going to lay it out here. But I think it could have been a lot simpler and straightforward as opposed to making a big deal of it. And I suppose it allows Mulder to emote in a way when we have this revelation that he can supply for us. So I guess that's maybe why they had to do it. I just felt like it was a bit too gift wrapped, as the plot goes. It's like, this is why you've got this power. But I guess that's Tim Minear for you. Otherwise, I loved this gimmick of Marty being able to look through Gott's eyes. I thought that was it was a very cool idea. Just enough of it present, and it wasn't overdone in this episode. It could have been the case that maybe it was too much of that. But I guess we have to have Mulder and Scully in the episode somewhere. So, we can't always have just this one thing. I think it is maybe also the case that because the movie demanded so much of Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny's time, they needed to make episodes where they could bring in either other talent to fill in the blanks or make them just a Scully episode or a Mulder episode. And this maybe is a case where they've got, Marty having so much screen time to allow them to ease off on the Mulder and Scully business. Anyway, I liked it. And we, again, hail the agents for actually having done something. And in the end, it wasn't their fault that they were outsmarted by the cunning Marty Glenn. So I liked it. I definitely think it's worth watching. And if you didn't watch it, you should. Although after we have just recapped it, I don't know why you'd need to. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, valued listeners. And that will be the episode for us tonight. Please continue to listen and join us on our Facebook group for exciting and interesting commentary. In the meantime, though, good night for me. Mike, would you like to say anything?
Have a good one. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at TINHxFilesPod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.